Our next trailblazer tonight is that guy in the red dress. And the 5-inch platform stilettos, he looks awesome. That is Eugene Lee Yang. He recently raised $600,000 for GoFundMe's Stop Asian Hate campaign with his documentary, We Need to Talk About Anti-Asian Hate. A filmmaker, producer, actor, director, writer, and one of today's most recognizable queer Asian American performers, Eugene deserves the title Trailblazer for producing viral videos that have been viewed billions of times. Yang's official coming out video, I'm Gay, back in June 2019, raised nearly $150,000 for the Trevor Project. He makes up 1/4, but a very big 1/4 of TheTry Guys, a comedy quartet that launched in 2018 and this year boasts millions of followers thanks to episodes that ponder what else vacuum cleaner suction is good for, and my personal favorite episode, mistaken melatonin gummies. I mistake those gummies all the time. Everyone, please welcome our next trailblazer, Eugene Lee Yang, to tell his Korean-American story.
Oh, here we go. What is a Korean-American story? I've wondered this every time I've written about my experiences or shared an anecdote, whether this was with a huge online audience or catching up with a friend at dinner. It's many of our life's work here, channeling and subverting notions of East meets West into fresh, authentic storytelling. And our community is so diverse. Immigrants, first generation and beyond, adoptees, multiracial folk, the list goes on. So what the hell makes us all distinctly Korean American? I'd like to propose that it's the extremely specific instances that end up being the most relatable. Our weird idiosyncrasies, our ugly, hilarious, terrible truths. So when I asked, what would I prepare for this intimate story, I couldn't help but think that perhaps the best way to represent this very gay, artsy, depressed, Texan child of divorce is to map out a series of memories that celebrate that specificity, particularly ones about my family, because they are all responsible for all this mess. After all, we are all products of generations of those who worked really hard to create the opportunity for the beautiful tapestry that makes up today's Koreans. The amazing ancestors who came before us. I know they are all looking down on me right now, smiling proudly and saying the same thing. Why he wear that? You know they're saying that. The notion of Asians revering their forefathers and upholding filial piety is a stereotype I aim to destroy because I am not the favorite child. Our parents claim to love us all equally, but if they can judge every restaurant based on the slightest difference in kimchi, then they know which of their child is the least annoying. My stepfather passed away last year, and so my mother, planning to move back to the States, tells me and my sisters, I'll go ahead and ship all my things to Denver. My younger sister lives there. But Mom, we said, do you like hiking? No. Do you like the snow? No. Do you like getting high? What is the getting high? Then why the hell would you consider moving to Denver? And without pause, she replied, because Whitney answers my calls. Once she visited Colorado, I got a call from her when she had a striking revelation. Eugene, I think it is better I move to LA because everyone in this Costco is white. A recent study found that Costco's most typical shopper is a married Asian American woman between 35 and 44 years old. So that means Denver is really, really fucking white. My sisters and I all ended up fucking white men, which sometimes feels like a failure in fighting imperialism. Don't get me wrong, all of our partners are wonderful. They all really love Sundubu. The egg, oh my God. But remember, this one time, I was hanging out with Jaisa and Randall Park, the one and only, and my older sister, Christy, showed them a picture of her husband. And then Randall tilts his head and goes, he was kind of like that property brother. Then we showed him a photo of Whitney, my other sister's husband. And he exclaims, he looks just like the other property brother. If you weren't aware, the Property Brothers are identical twins. So the important lesson I learned that night was, Asians do not look the same. But our white husbands all look like HGTV hosts. Any white husbands here? Okay, yeah, I trust you with my house renovation. Whitney actually canceled her wedding due to the pandemic, but was relieved because she didn't want to deal with all the hassle. And Christy, on the other hand, got married in Paris because she loves to show off. That's the thing about Koreans. Many of us live on the extremes. For instance, there is the kindest Korean ajumma you'll ever meet, and then there is that one relative we all have who really loves talking about being Republican. And then there's the K-Rage bro, who's always trying to start a fight with somebody. And then there's your quiet, sweet friend, who's always thinking about starting a fight with somebody. Okay, look, there's a reason we all loved Squid Game. Yeah. Because we all watched that and went, yeah, that seems right. There's devout Christians who selflessly give to others. And then there's me, who solely exists to take any validation I can. Simply put, no matter what extreme you identify as, we are all gorgeously unique and valid. But we don't always understand the word moderation. For instance, my father, bless his heart, is sober, and South Korea as a whole is often drunk. So the first time I met his family in Seoul, I was terrified because my Korean comprehension is limited at best. 나는 한국말 잘 못하노. 나는 텍사스 출신이다. 어디에 Homo Hill? I saw everyone who laughed. I knew I had disappointed my distant family with my linguistic shortcomings. So my father gave me a word of advice. Eat and drink everything in sight. So when I was able to finish off this whole entire KBBQ and 3 bottles of soju and 4 bottles of height and a whole bowl of makgeolli, all by myself, my uncle patted me on the back and shouted to the whole restaurant, "This is my nephew. He ate all that, and look how skinny he is." My dad's older brother, on the other hand, is really elderly, and I was so in awe of him because I watched him get up at the crack of dawn and put on this whole ton of heavy sticks on his back, and he would just climb a mountain. I asked my dad why he did this every day, and he had this poetic response. It's a very Buddhist practice to keep the body active through hard routine because it feeds the mind and soul. And then I asked his siblings why my uncle did that, and he said, we don't know, we think he's going crazy. My mom's family, on the other hand, all moved to America, and I'd say they took a larger portion of the crazy cake with them. I'm going to describe several of them with a cute little blurb, and you tell me if you feel a little kinship. My imo works at a bank, and every present she's given me throughout my entire life has been an envelope of a stack of $2 bills. Why? When my ajashi runs out of things to say in a conversation, he points directly at the nearest person and says, hey, do you like McDonald's? I can't even wear shorts or shirtless shirts, sleeveless shirts around my harmony because she said, shorts make a man look like a tourist. And your tank top make a man look like a woman. But she never said I couldn't wear dresses though. So, the first time she saw me in one, she looked me up and down and said, you look pretty. And then my mom swerved in without skipping a beat and said, because he looks like me. And while they're certainly on the more conservative side, the wildest character of all on the opposite end of the spectrum was my stepfather of over 20 years, who was Korean but spent half of his life in France. So he was a special type of cultural elitist. He was so extra that he would go skiing with his video camera in one hand and a wine glass in the other, with a cigarette dangling out of his mouth. One time, he ran a red light in the middle of the night, and when my sisters and I protested, he turned around and said, traffic signals, they are not a rule, they are merely a suggestion. He was, in every sense of the word, a rule breaker. Throw caution to the wind. Live life to the fullest. C'est la fucking vie. And last July, he called us to let us know, during the height of the pandemic, that he had just been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And the first thing he said to us was, your mom is more worried than me. It's like she got the cancer. And they gave him the typical diagnosis, about 2 months to live, 6 months if he got heavy chemo. Apparently, when he went in for his first round of treatment, he ended up yanking all the IVs out of his arms and told the nurses this exact statement. I don't want to die like I'm slowly rolling down a hill like this. I want to die like I climbed a mountain and jumped off the cliff like this. And he lit up a cigarette and went to a bar to play pool with his buddies. He passed away only a couple of weeks later, after my mom picked him up this really good jjajangmyeon from a shop under their building, and he ate one of his favorite meals, and he went to bed next to his wife, and then he died. And we all flew to Korea as soon as possible to pay our respects and support our mother, who had yet to experience that fucking Denver Costco. So when I think about what my Korean American story is, I've tried to stop dwelling so much on the pressure of growing up in a small Texan town, or the trauma of my parents' divorce, or the deep grief I'm still wrestling with over my stepfather's sudden death. And I think about these stupid-ass little stories that make me feel so imperfect, but so human. And they make me laugh and cherish the in-between parts of life that don't necessarily make it into the autobiography. So my mom's favorite dumb memory about me is when I was a little kid, I ran up to her crying because I told her that my sisters had threatened to kill me. She was exhausted from housework, so she gave up and said, "Well, you go right back and tell them you'll kill them first." So I did, and a few minutes later, I returned, bawling my eyes out. "What's wrong?" she asked. As I blubbered, I said, "They said I can't kill them because I am already dead." And she hugged me tight and comforted me by saying, "Well, we'll just have to find a way to be happy together and keep living, even if you're dead." Sharing our stories, no matter how silly or sad or specific, is what keeps our culture and our ancestors alive, even when the people who first told them are long gone. And I like to think that my stepfather, who was a staunch atheist, is a conscienceless smattering of particles floating aimlessly through the universe, looking down on me right now with a cigarette dangling from his lips, smiling proudly and saying, "You know what? Eugene was my favorite child." Thank you.